Welcome to the dream of awakening. You can call it an anti-dream if you like, or an opposite dream. A reverse time dream where time seems to be still going forward but actually is going backwards. Since we're now living in the resurrection, which stopped the clock. No more death. We're going negative death now. I don't really know how to express it. Somebody should come up with a lot of terminology for the reversal, the great reversal. Jesus has a nickname for for the action in mind that occurs when you're applying the lessons diligently and learning to communicate vertically. Calls it the celestial speed up. And if you have been practicing those lessons, you'll realize that things are making much more sense much more quickly. And the idea of the linear alpha to omega, how long it takes you to seem to learn any kind of lesson, it's just like that time gets collapsed really, really fast. So 3 things today in this video, well, maybe 4 things. I should write them on the whiteboard. I was asked to do more whiteboard stuff, so here we go. There's more whiteboard stuff. So whiteboard, and just making mental notes for myself because I'm pretty forgetful of things these days. It seems to be in transformation that you remember what you need to remember that's important, and the other stuff, if it's not so important, there's a hierarchy of remembering. It's not that way, but relationships, because everything's always about relationships. And what was the other one I had? Oh, karma. Which, I mean, they all tie in together. Everything's always the one thing. You're always looking at the idea of your relationship with yourself, which is, and I'll probably start with that one. But, so I was asked to do more stuff with the whiteboard. A lot of people have a very visual way of understanding things, which is me included, being an artist and, not being an artist, but having an artistic sort of storyline that goes along with my avatar association here in the world. So if I can, I'll use the whiteboard a bit for this video. The other thing I was asked about was by Mary, who sometimes comes to our Zoom meetings, saying that it's probably easier for those who, I don't know if I can read it whilst I'm making a video. I don't think I can, no, I won't risk it. So try and shrink this screen down, see if I can read the exact thing she said. But she said something like it's easier for people that have had an experience to balance their relationships or something. So, and she was putting forth the idea that our purpose is to be to balance between God and man, right? And that's not true at all, because there's nothing more unstable than the notion of balance. And I know a lot of quasi-spiritual rhetoric sort of revolves these days around balance and healthy boundaries and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, where do you begin? You're in one relationship, right? And there you go, I tied it all in. You're in one relationship with everything. Your relationship is with God, as above, so below, in eternity, so on earth. Right, and when I say in eternity, I mean in that state of mind, because everything is a state. The form association is simply the witness to the state. So I'm in one relationship. My barometer for knowing how I'm doing, my gauge for knowing how I'm doing with that relationship is my own state of inner peace on earth. Right, so in my daily doings, am I at peace in this relationship, that relationship, that relationship, that relationship? Because that is a direct reflection of my relationship with God, with the whole. Okay, if there's a little disturbance in the force anywhere in any particular relationship, then I'm not at perfect harmony or perfect alignment with that relationship that we call the God relationship. And you can look at it as the God-man relationship if you like, but it's not a balance. It's a sort of equilibrium. And if you think of it as a line in the sand, right? And I'll just make up some stuff. Here's my what's the puppets? Punch and Judy. All you young people probably won't know what Punch and Judy is, but it used to be puppets for kids. But here's my relationship. Here's me, and here's somebody else in my relationship. And hello, how you going? And yep, all good. And then all of a sudden, I say something stupid because I'm a human. And then, oh, that's terrible, And then all of a sudden, boom, there's a rift. It gets further apart. Instead of becoming more intimate and more close and more united and having a singular experience through the ultimate appreciation, if you like, of the relationship, it forces things further apart and the illusion of separation grows. Not specifically because of the grievance, but the grievance shows up to show me, right? The judgment and the problem and the issue shows up to show me that my relationship isn't unified, isn't singular, right? Inner peace is a singular state of mind. It's one thing. It's not a little bit of peace sometimes. I've had people tell me, oh, well, I'm mostly at peace. I'm pretty peaceful most of the time. So, no, keep going. Look for the places. Seek for the blocks, right? Seek for the blocks where you're not at peace. And do work on those, And it's easy to stay in a comfort zone. It's easy to say, oh, I'm fine. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go and apologize, or I'm not going to repair that. I'm not going to forgive that because it seemed to be just virtually nothing. I'll probably never see that person again. And the mind makes up a litany of excuses why you don't have to do the work. One of the questions I got asked in the Zoom the other day, which was a pretty good one, from a gentleman, my brother in Christ, who has an Eastern orientation through his avatar, an Indian person of Indian origin, I would say, if I'm not mistaken. And I have a few actually now, and I really enjoy these interactions with people who've had other upbringings, either through Buddhism or Hinduism or something like that. Because a lot of my early days of searching was through those modalities. I was looking. I used to go when I lived in northern New South Wales near Mawulumbar. I used to go to the big Haridam there, and the temple. It was on 1,000 acres, and there was a lot of devotees there, and very beautiful services, very delicious food, and very patient teachers. Very, very patient teachers. And the teachings of Krishna consciousness are absolutely beautiful. It's like a romance. If you've never been to a Krishna place, a Hare Krishna temple or house, they do free lunch on a Sunday, generally. Anyone can come. It is the teachings of Krishna, if I get this right, to feed anyone who comes, I think for like 200 kilometers around or something. I don't know. I don't know what the deal with that is. But anyway, it's part of service and part of learning to trust that Krishna provides, God provides. And the teachings are beautiful. And I love to have those interactions with people from those different backgrounds, because everything being a reflection of my relationship with God, a lot of things are very nurturing. A lot of things, you can spend a lot of time, for example, doing mind training. Right? Now, I came to mind training through the journey of the heart. I remember being a very younger man, in my 20s, and making the decision that I was never again going to do anything that I didn't think would make me happy. I followed my heart. And I was diligent about that. I quit jobs. I ended relationships And, these things didn't always happen gracefully. But I followed my heart. I stayed true to it. And it was difficult to stay true to it. And it got easier. I sort of learned as you stay true to the heart, and you'll find that the things that lead you to heart and mind become easier to learn. And looking back, I often think now, it's like, well, I really did my Course in Miracles in many ways before I even came to it. I'd been following my heart and making conscious decisions about that and all this sort of thing. But a lot of these different spiritual disciplines, Hinduism especially, I find very, very beautiful. I'm not on board with a lot of the stories. I mean, I understand them, but it's a lot like when you try to read the Old Testament and you're like, how is that relevant? There's always a moral to the story and an ethic and everything else, but it takes a lot to try and find that in your own personal process with the interaction with the story sometimes. But when you come to mind training, it's awful. It's awful. You wouldn't wish it upon your worst enemy, but you have to do it. You realize you have to do it because you understand somewhere that the thing that is against you is not God, it's not the universe, it's not people out there. It's this chitty-chatty thing in your head, which has been allowed to run rampant. And when I came to mind training, it was after revelation, after my enlightenment. I'd been following the path of the heart and I didn't even call it that. I didn't have a thing, I was very uneducated. It was just, that's what I wanted to do. It was like an inner knowing for over a decade. And it was beautiful. I was having all these beautiful interactions. I was going to the Haridam down the road and it was like 10, 15 minutes away. And I was living in an area where there was lots of hippies and even some Moonies and sannyasins. I didn't know at the time sannyasins are devotees of Osho, another very beautiful teacher, beautiful teachings, but Eastern. But my heart journey led me to all these beautiful interactions with people, and they were beautiful. They were profound. Every single interaction that I seemed to have with people had some profound impact on my life, even though I wasn't able to integrate it completely. It was profound as in that person is so beautiful, but I wasn't yet the embodiment of anything beautiful, at least not to me. And I was looking, like most people are looking, just for the peaceful life, the beautiful life. I just want to be at peace. I don't want all this crap that you see on the news. And I don't want that in my personal relationships, all those empty conversations. So it's nice now, having gone through a whole bucket load of, washing the inside of the bucket or the cup, a whole cup load, bucket sounds better, of mind training, doing so much work for the last 27 years and teaching this singular path for 27 years to be having interactions with people that are reminiscent of those early heart path sort of experiences that I would have, and now if I were to look at it, heart and mind are one. I feel like yesterday, exactly the same thing. I went for a walk or a drive. I can't remember where I was. I was somewhere, but it dawned upon me I was having the most beautiful morning. I'd had 2 interactions or 3 interactions with people in the shopping district, and it was just fantastic, and I was on a high because what you give away, you get back, and I was giving away. Usually I'll go for a walk around this mountain here and you might only have a thing with one person, if anybody, sometimes. But I was feeling particularly exalted. And I realized that, I feel energetically very much akin to how I was to just before my illumination, just before my mind training started and my experience of union with God, and that was a very blessed moment. yesterday, you know, and I'm carrying that with me today. Hiccups. The temptation is to want to try and define it, of course. Oh, I feel good because of this. I feel good because of that. No, I feel good because I feel the presence of love in my experience of myself. Right? What you give away, you get back. And the idea of loving others as yourself, you know, it's like Jesus says in the Bible, if you love only those who love you, what more have you gained? Right? You've got to get outside your comfort zone. You've got to go into other places and, you know, go and love nature, go and love your enemies, go and love strangers, all that sort of stuff. And it's not that you have to go out and find them, but you have to be willing to energetically make yourself available to the universe so that if there are lessons still for you to learn here, that they can be presented to you, right? Because you still have the illusion of free will, albeit illusory, but in the idea of learning to participate with your salvation, what you're learning to do is to say yes to God, to say yes to opening your heart and mind to more opportunities to enter into those quantum moments of healing within the framework of your universal relationship. And they're going to show up as pain, suffering, and death and all of those things. But you want to find those. You know, there's no point living in a bliss bubble. Half your mind's good as long as you don't have to look at the rest of it. That's called denial. So it's good to be open. It's good to keep an open mind to things and say yes to things, you know, and I always teach that. One of the questions I had, and I'll get back to relationships, but I just want to address the third question, was karma. I was asked in the Zoom meeting, how come if you're enlightened that you still have karma, you still have stuff to do? And my answer in the Zoom meeting was something along the lines of that the experience doesn't occur in time and space. It occurs outside of time and space, but you experience it. Well, you don't experience it here, but you're aware of it here, right? So my experience, it's like changing the channel with a remote control on your TV. It's just click, you're not here all of a sudden, and then click, you're back. It's like Jesus talks about it in the Bible, in the twinkling of an eye. Corruption will put on incorruption, you know, and man will become totally changed and you'll realize the spirit, blah, blah, blah. That's not word for word, by the way. So the experience happens out of time. Right? The avatar association, which is an association of mind, right? Mind in denial is still an association of mind. The opposite of life is not death. It's another form of life. Because God is whole, because God is limitless and God is all-encompassing, that is also experienced here, even though it doesn't happen here, right? It's like seeing a flash of light on the horizon. Well, you weren't there at the horizon where the flash of light happened, but you see it here, right? You can see it, right? So this is a mental seeing. This is something that occurs through a transcendental shift in consciousness where all of a sudden God's got the remote control and turns off this channel that you're watching now, blink, you find yourself back in eternity, and then you get told what you need to get told, and or you're shown what you need to be shown, and then blink, back again, right? Now, I guess for a second I can just talk about the information. The information that comes from being back in eternity, or from remembering, that's probably better because you're not absent from eternity, remembering eternity, which is an action of remembering, which is why this Course in Miracles is an action of teaching yourself to remember. Stop using AI to tell you how to do things. You're learning to remember for yourself. It's the power of your own mind. And you'll say, AI is not separate from the power of my own. Everything's God, including AI. So is crystals and tarot cards. Everything is God. You know, it's like, what are you going to do? So is my magic lamp, you know. So the information that comes is instantaneous because your mind knows all knowledge. And when you have an experience of the light, even a glimpse, what is actually occurring is you're remembering truth as an idea of a replacement. I don't know if replacement's the right word, an alternative. Well, I guess a replacement or an alternative as something that you can now learn to choose between on earth, yin yang, or what I've just been shown in the light, and then see how that plays out on earth, which will always be perfectly, by the way. But that information substitutes for corrupted information on earth, right? So, and you can call that light as the healing light, and you'll find that things change. You'll have a shift here on earth, and all of a sudden everything will be a lot easier, right? Your ego will probably cover it up again, which is why you need mind training, but you keep going, you keep going, you keep going, and eventually, as all your efforts are channelized towards a single point, you must eventually reach that point. If some of your efforts are channelized towards a single point, which is inner peace, and some are still hanging on to conflict, you're never gonna, you can't serve two masters. You can't reach two single points at once. You can't have love and fear. That's why you have to get out of your comfort zones. You have to allow yourself to be affected by the world. So you can see it will lead you into those dark places in your mind by showing you where they exist in your relationships out there. Right? Your relationships are your barometers for your relationship with God, your relationships on earth. So my karma, if I'm enlightened, how come I still have karma? It's because my illumination, my enlightenment, happened outside of time and space, and now I find myself back here applying the principles of my spiritual discipline to do the cleanup work or the healing work of my alpha omega timeline. Okay, I've agreed with Jesus, yes, I'm going to heal my world. Well, my world still shows up, but now I heal it with a new awareness. There's a very transcendent, and this is important, right? There's a very transcendent perspective on enlightenment that sort of says in unofficial ways, once you reach enlightenment, you have no karma. All the stuff's finished, right? Now, in a sense, that's true, but in a sense, it's also not true. It's like if you think of enlightenment like a running race. You've got 5 competitors in a running race, and they're running round and around the track at the Olympics or wherever, and one of them eventually crosses the finish line, right? That's enlightenment, because when it happens for one, it happens for all. The race is over, but the others still have to cross the line, okay? There is still that cleanup, that finish, that work to be done. I don't know if that's a great analogy, but technically the race is over. If I'm the last person in that race or the first person in that race, it doesn't matter. That race is finished as soon as somebody crosses the line. Okay? The race for the other people is also finished as soon as somebody crosses the line, right? Which is why Jesus said, I've done this for you. I've already crossed the line. The race is finished, right? I can feel you all out there feeling good now. So I've done this for you. The race is done. It's finished. It's a done deal, right? You can now go about your day with the certainty that your salvation is a done deal. That doesn't mean that you still don't finish running around the track that one last time, right? In the enlightenment of your mind, you understand that it's finished. You understand there is no world. You understand the race is done. You understand that Jesus is already ascended. There is no more death. And that's a beautiful teaching, right? But you still have to finish your lap. I was sent to a place by the voice from the sky, by the voice from the clouds, the cupboards, the ground, the books on my shelf. The voice came from everywhere all at once. I could have had the enlightenment, right? God is not limited by my ideas about anything, right? I could have had that experience of enlightenment in my room in that moment that I heard the voice. I'm sure of it, right? I didn't have to be somewhere else for it to happen. It's like it's God's decision. It's the universe. You get near enough to heaven that the love of God can reach down to you and raise you up to him. That's directly from the Course. That's directly out of Krishna consciousness as well, out of the teachings. I could have had that experience in my room when I woke up in the morning, right? And I heard go to Byron Bay. But if I'd have had that experience there and didn't go to Byron Bay, I wouldn't have been introduced by Greta to the idea of A Course in Miracles and the purification of the mind. It may have happened another way, but it was through the orchestration of the Spirit that I was directed by the voice for God, the Holy Spirit, to go to Byron Bay. Because now at Byron Bay, I've had the experience of the enlightenment of my mind, right? And now I've been given this incredible teaching, this incredible universal curriculum to help me finish the race, to help me clean up my cause and effect relationships in whatever's left of my Alpha Omega race timeline. And I hope that makes sense. So in the East, there's this big thing, and this could have happened to me, right? So let me tell you another part of the story here, just to continue on from there. For about a year, right, and Tyna was talking to a woman who was, I believe, at our Zoom meeting, who'd had an awakening recently, who couldn't hear this, who couldn't hear that this cleanup, this finishing the race was required. There was a yeah, and then back into the stories. That was also me. After the illumination of my mind, it was like my mind was supercharged. You couldn't tell me you could tell me whatever you want, but my mind was processing stuff at a phenomenal rate. I was like a savant. I had all these, it was like I'd put my fingers in an electric outlet and I was supercharged for a while, right? So in the Course, Jesus says, revelation induces complete but temporary suspension from doubt and fear. When you're in a state where there's no doubt and fear, and I don't have really any doubt and fear now, but I might be in a comfort zone. I'll never say never. That's a great teaching. Never say never. You've still got time. I'm still here, seem to be in the body. Obviously, there must be a lesson to learn or to teach or something in this universal relationship that I'm in. But for about a year, even though I had a copy of the Course in my hand, even though it was given to me in a place where everybody there was there 6 days a week as a group gathering, spiritual learning center, and everyone was diligently about the lessons, the work, I couldn't be told that I had to do the lessons that I had to do. It just didn't sink in. It couldn't get past the illumination. It couldn't get past how bright and beautiful and wonderful everything suddenly was from the illumination of my mind. I couldn't stop laughing for like 4 months, 5 months. I'd be driving down the road and all of a sudden I'd just start laughing, and it would go on for hours and hours and hours, the same as I laugh now, but it wouldn't stop. And I started making a video the other day, and halfway through, my teacher Ted spoke to me from the ether and about something that had been on my mind a little bit. And I started laughing, partly, I guess, because it was beautiful to hear his voice again after a few years of having no communication with him verbally. And partly because anything that you receive from the higher realms, from the celestial sort of spheres, is always received in joy by the spirit that is open to true joy. So as spiritual beings, let's say, having this earthly experience, when you begin your inner work, you're no longer confused about the nature of the world out there. It's not real, or at least you're willing to believe that it's not real. You're willing to take that on board and start to make your own inquiries about it. And so you're actually opening to true joy, to true communication. Once you start to doubt what you think you see out there and around you as being your reality, the mind starts to act in a different way. It starts to realign, right? So, but all this stuff would go on. I would have, like immediately after my illumination, it took a lot of brothers at that healing center to confront me, to bring me down a peg, I guess, to knock me off my, I don't know if I would have said I was on a pedestal. I mean, it was natural. What was happening was just the result of enlightenment. But I began to see how my ego, or the residue of my ego, Jesus talks about the residue in the Course, but I began to see how, because you can't operate one of these without ego, right? You can't, it's impossible, because the body is the symbol of the ego. So in your spiritual transformation, you're reducing the ego association that you have to its bare minimum so that it brings you near enough to heaven that the love of God can reach down, right? So, but I had all these brothers confronting me, Dave, like, get in your body. Last thing I wanted to do was get in my body. I was out here in the astral realms. Wow, I was totally investigating. Oh, the crown's going crazy right now. I was totally investigating the full potential and the full power of the experience. I mean, I was putting hands on people. I was channeling. I was laughing. I was having moments of clairvoyance. Like, every kind of thing was popping off in my mind, and I had no control over it. I was just in the wow of it, like a kid. You give a kid $20 at a carnival and they go, woohoo, they're running around, they're going on this ride and that ride and buying some candy floss, and, you know, they're gone. They're off doing their thing till that money runs out. Well, my money didn't run out for about a year, maybe over a year. And then I ran into Annie one day at the Shannon Markets, and I'd gone back to smoking joints, right? Not drinking, but just to smoking joints. I'd gone back, sort of lapsed back, because that high was wearing off, and I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware it was wearing off, and that my energy levels were dropping, you know, and there's only a way of trying to describe it. But I met Annie, someone from the healing center. She happened to be doing some shopping at the markets, and I was sitting on a bench, and I was really stoned, just enjoying the day, like, beautiful day, beautiful people, beautiful market and everything. Annie came up to me, and I hadn't seen her for a little while, and she said, what's going on with you? You've got all the energy of a cold fish or a dead fish or something like that. And that got in. That one comment, I don't know what it was, but I'm eternally grateful to Annie. Like, my gratitude is, something about, you know, I guess I saw her as my peer, as a peer, or as a you know, a contemporary in this with me. And when she said that, it went in, it hit me. And I knew, something in my mind knew, I had to be at that healing center. I had to be there 6 days a week with everybody and doing the work and doing the lessons. But it took a while. It took a minute. I mean, I was going there on the weekends. I was, you know, like, it was 2 hours from my house, 2-hour drive. So eventually I gave my house away. I let the bank take it back. You know, well, my parents ended up having to pay out the thing. I just left, much to their horror. But they were guarantor for my loan, so karmic debt there. But I did the old St. Francis of Assisi. I just walked out on my job. I just rang my boss, not coming back. Walked out on my job. I had a 3 days a week job working with sheep and cattle, you know, and I love that job, but being outside in the country. But quit everything right there in that day, just boom. And I turned up at the healing center the next day with only my car and my dog. That was it, and a box of clothes. And Greta was at the front door, and she was waiting for me, actually. Annie must have told her that she'd seen me at the markets, and she put her hand up. She said, no, she was Dutch. No, you cannot come in, she said. I don't do a very good Dutch accent. You cannot come in unless you are here like everybody else is here. Every day, do your lesson, da-da-da-da-da. And I pointed to my car and my box of clothes and my dog. I said, I'm here, Greta. I said, I've just left my house, my job and everything, and I'm here full time, I promise, you know. And she let me in. But I know that if I wasn't there on her terms, she was going to, like, that was it. They'd given me enough time to think about it, enough time to make, you know. And it's like, how arrogant was I anyway? I mean, God sent me there. Like, put two and two together, Dave, you know. And the funny thing was, when I read the course, when I opened it up, even when she first gave it to me, when I opened it up, because I'd been in the mind of God, in God mind, in the Godhead, like in that experience of enlightenment, everything was known to me. Everything. I could finish your sentences for you. I could, like, it was just my mind, like a savant, like just a crazy, like if you'd have had me on Guinness Book of Records or something. Like, there was a period there, you know. And today I still have some stuff, but that's in relationship to my assignment or my atonement position on earth here. But where was I going with that? Lost it. Anyway, if it comes back, it comes back. I get a sense that what I was going to say was important there, but it doesn't matter. There's an orchestration to things anyway. You know, it's like the amount of things I've been through since that day, and I'm talking linear now because it's the only way you can really talk about it. The amount of things I've been through, as in relationships that I've healed in my own association, and acts of forgiving myself for my footprint, let's say, within those relationships that brought them to despair because I always sabotage my own best interests. Welcome to the world. It's a place of denial. What do you expect? You're going to sabotage everything. You don't know what the meaning of life is, so you just sort of like a bull in a china shop trying to get the best out of everything. Very selfish, not selfless, selfish. But I was witness to that, you know, and I've been witness to that and still am witness to that. So that question, how come you've got karma still after that? It's because that experience happened to me not as a fully purified mind, right? God makes his rain to fall upon the just and the unjust, the sinner and the saint, and his sun to shine the same. So I was all fucked up when that happened to me, right? Jesus took pity on me, I guess, and saw someone who might make a teacher of God, you know, and people tell me I'm pretty good at teaching, so maybe I am, I don't know, but I like to think that I'm helpful at least, because otherwise, what the hell? But that whole post-enlightenment thing, it's not really after enlightenment because it's this singular moment. It seems to be occurring in a linear sort of sequencing, like this orchestration of people and situations and events that I meet. And each one triggers me in a certain way, which I like. I like to be triggered on. I hate to be in a relationship and there's no conflict. Otherwise, what are you there for? You're not being honest. You're not being open. You're not being intimate with the relationship. Because every relationship is a mirror, and I want, if I'm here in time and space and there's still lessons to learn, let me learn the bloody lessons. Let me be about it, you know. At the beginning, of course, when you start your conscious transformation and you pick up the book and you're starting to, you're like, oh my God, journey into fear. I don't want to be in fear. I want to be in love. I've been following this beautiful heart path, and the last thing I want to have to do is look at all the shit I've tried to not look at for the last 20 years, 30 years, 500 lifetimes. So the old, and it's very much an Eastern idea, a transcendental idea, the idea of enlightenment relieves you of the nature of your karmic debt to the universe, let's say. Well, yes and no, right? It's like the running race. It shows you that it's finished. It shows you that there's nothing for you to worry about. Now just simply be about your Father's business. Let's just tidy up and then we'll be moving on. And that's how it is. But you're tidying up with the certainty that you've actually already done it, which is the crazy part, right? With the certainty that the race is already finished. And you can tell yourself that and use that as a spiritual concept to try and avoid the work, you know, spiritual bypassing. Or you can just be like, well, I still seem to find myself here, so there must still be laughs to be had. So, anyway, That's about it. I didn't really get to use the whiteboard much. Sorry about that. I could have drawn the running race on there, but I think I explained it quite clearly. All you guys that are writing in the comments, I love that. I love the comments because it's my relationship with God. Occasionally I get some weird comments. People go, "This guy's a wanker" or whatever. But I really appreciate the comments, and I appreciate them all. Don't get me wrong, but I appreciate the ones where your heart space is there. Like where you're truly reaching out from the heart, and I can tell the difference between those ones. The Holy Spirit says, like in dealing with your thoughts, Jesus says in the Course, the Holy Spirit looks with you at your thoughts. Some of them are so unlike the universal curriculum, they're just sent to the fire, right? Purified by fire. We're not going to use those so that you can be the witness to the change of your mind through those particular thoughts, because they're going to be too painful to you, and God is merciful, right? Some of those thoughts are partly in alignment because there's some happiness in them somewhere. There's something in there somewhere. They're just missing a bit. We'll work with those on forgiveness because you can look at those, that it's not too much for you to encompass. And some of them are quite actually in an alignment, and there's not really any work to be done because they're felt, right? They're felt in the heart. And which one of those each thing is for you in your relationship doesn't matter. I mean, the Holy Spirit does that, the Spirit of God. And that's why it's important for you to make that connection with the Holy Spirit, to give that invitation, to offer through prayer the invitation for the Holy Spirit to come down to you and abide within you in a conscious way, right? It's like as if your mind was a shop full of things. You're going to make a space on a shelf, and that's where the Holy Spirit is going to abide, and you're going to keep that sacred. On earth, in the physical nature of things, you might sanctify that by devoting a room in your house as your healing room, right? Or your time out room, or your space room where you just go there and its only function is to abide with God, right? The whole world. And I used to love the healing center when I used to go there. It was a place that was dedicated for one purpose only, like a church, like a temple, like anything like that. One purpose only, communing with the divine, right? Now, in my mind, that's where I commune with the divine, symbolizing that on earth as a commitment, as a dedication, as a devotion, right? You may have some sort of activity. Jesus went into the desert and drew a circle in the sand for 40 days and 40 nights and sanctified that circle by giving it the purpose of healing, all right? That was where it was all or nothing. I'm going to confront my temptations, confront the deceiver. And he went through the trials there in the desert, right? I used to do that on the beach. I used to go down to the beach across the road from the healing center. It was directly across the road, beautiful spot in the world. Travel agent Dave. And I'd draw a circle in the sand if something was bothering me, and I would sit there until I could feel it, until I felt that thing that was bothering me. Because the circle that I drew had a specific purpose, and I wasn't going to pollute it. I wasn't going to bring anything else into that circle. It's there, and I would sit there till my legs would go crampy, and just to get a sense of the integrity that I was giving the circle and my purpose for being there. And it's like having a room in your house, let's say. Like when we went to Tilba, it was the same thing. We devoted big farmhouse, lots of bedrooms, but we devoted one of those rooms, the bigger room, as a healing room, and other people could come and we would do our healing sessions, our light sessions in that room, and I would orchestrate or facilitate the activity of healing through the higher to lower channeling of the Spirit through me and other guys also, very powerful and open channels, for the benefit of the greater good of everyone that was there, right? So it works collaboratively. Healing is a collaborative venture. Where two or more are gathered, there I am in the midst of them. It's really a beautiful journey. Once you get, I mean, the heart is a beautiful journey. and you start to realize how much the heart lifts you up and out of the drama of the world by following your heart. And my heart took me from a busy city dwellers kind of lifestyle to a country boy kind of lifestyle to a hippie kind of lifestyle to a feral lifestyle where I was living in a teepee, had dreadlocks and growing my own vegetables, chickens and everything like that. And that was as far from mainstream life as I thought I could get. And, you know, surely that was my idea of being spiritual, you know, in those days. Now I could just easily work as an executive for IBM or, you know, drive a truck or be a tattoo artist or do anything. And it's like my relationship is singular within me. It doesn't matter where I am. I know that wherever I go, I'm there for the reason that, you know, I'm here to represent God. I'm here to represent him who sent me, however that's meant to look. Right? But it's also reciprocal. It's also this kind of collaborative thing. Wherever you are, you're in a relationship with someone or something, some situation or event or happening. And you get to see in the playing out of the particulars of that relationship, whether your mind stays here or whether it fluctuates out there into grievance world or into disaster world or chaos world. You know, it's like the kingdom of heaven is within. That's where I want to stay. And you have to be honest with yourself if you get distracted. Right? You have to be honest with yourself if your peace of mind fluctuates. It's good if it fluctuates. You learn to remember betting. You learn to remember better by seeing that you forget. Right? It's like doing your lessons. Oh, I've been all day today and forgot to do my lesson. Good. At least you remembered that you forgot. Now you can be about the remembering again. That's why I tell you, stop using AI. Stop using apps that have a chime to tell you to remember to do your lesson. Work it out for yourself. Like, let it become the power of your own mind. I used to write the lesson heading on my arm every day. That was a way for me, I guess, to remember, like using an app, like using AI. I was looking outside of myself on my arm at the thing. But it was the integrity that was represented in that. But there was a certain point even in that I realized that, you know, I had to do this without any prompts. I had to do this by guidance of the Holy Spirit. If I'd have had AI back in those days, I probably would have been using that for a while as well. But knowing better now, you know, I don't say that was, it wasn't a good or a bad thing or anything like that to write down my lesson. You know, I had little post-it notes on the fridge and different things like that. All of those things. But all of those things eventually have to fall away, right? And the sooner the better. All of your books, all of your study books, all of your Course in Miracles books, everything. Eventually it's got to fall away. Jesus says, and now forget this course. Right? So the sooner you can be about that, the better. The sooner you realize that, hang on, this is about me retraining my mind and using the power of my mind to remember to do that. Because what we're attempting to do through our illumination, the illumination or the healing of our mind is remember. Because the memory of God is in your mind. It's like a remote control, click, click. Right? The memory is in there. And you're attempting to strengthen your memory. You're attempting to reach back through meditation into your memories, because all of this is actually a memory already. I won't get into that on this video. Right? All of this is already actually over and done. It's a revisiting, a repolishing, a re-editing of a memory that it's like when you watch the race. You know, you watch it on a rerun. It's like, oh, there's that guy that came first and there's me at the back or in the middle or whatever, right? But it's the power of your mind that gets you to finish the race. There comes a point where you stop listening to the people in the grandstand going, come on, go faster. It's like, I got this, I got it, I can do this because the power of God is within me. Right? And you'll fail at that and you'll look outside yourself for prompts and for things, and you'll fail at that and you'll look outside yourself for prompts and things until you don't. And there was a point one day I was walking down the street and I realized that a thought had entered into my consciousness, an ego thought had entered into my consciousness, and my mind simply converted it by itself. Like that. My mind converted it by itself. And I realized that was my first really visual or vibrant awareness of the fact that of the little teaching that work the course until it works you, right? So in Alcoholics Anonymous, they have a saying: work the program until it works you. Retrain your mind until that retraining starts to kick in, right? You have to use the books, the prompts, the everything else for a minute, but let's get through that as quickly as possible. You don't want to be using that book for 20 years, 30 years, right? And I know people that do. I know people that have been reading it for 30 years, and to those people I would simply say, get the hell out of your house, go and have a life, because you're living in a comfort zone. Right? You've got to let the world push you around. You've got to let yourself be tempted. You've got to let yourself see what it is you're trying to avoid that's down there that you don't want to look at. And it's always going to be your relationship with God showing up as the healing of my relationship with this person or that situation. It's always self, a journey from self to self in the space of an instant of reality. All right, I love you. Thank you. Oh, Zoom meeting, the link for the Zoom meeting. A lot of people have been, new guys have been coming to the Zoom meetings. Awesome. Thank you. Fantastic. I was going to do meditation in the Zoom meeting last week, but there was about half a dozen or more new people. So I like to, whenever new people come, I like to do the basics. I like to go through the groundwork and just make sure we're all sort of on the same page for a second. So hopefully this week, we'll definitely do a meditation. It'll be a guided meditation. So if you'd like to do that, jump on the link down below, contact Tyna, and she'll add you to the Zoom group. Okay. Oh, and I'm doing a mail out today or tomorrow of our little introductory books. This is not the whole book of the Course in Miracles. It's an introductory book. It's just the reviews of the first 50 lessons. It's a small section out of the course that encompasses the entire nature of the thought system. But if you'd like one of those, also write to Tyna, and I'll probably leave it till Friday now. She'll, what's today, Wednesday? She's going to send me through some more people that want books, and so I'll do a mail out on Friday. All right, love you guys. Peace.